Hi everyone, now recently I went to Cancun, Mexico and I thought I would share my adventure with you. Now my adventure started at London Heathrow Airport and after checking in my bags, going through security, it was time to board the plane. Right, this is the plane I'm going to board. It's Aero Mexico, so waiting for me and off we go. Now the first part of this journey, the flight's going to be about 12 hours and it's going to take me to Mexico City. Now as you're flying, there is, some entertainment on board. You've got films you can watch, you've got music, and occasionally you get a really spectacular view out of the window. So, I tried to video a little bit of that. Now when I was on the plane, because I couldn't really sleep, I thought I would get stuck into reading my book on Cancun so I could plan the excursions that I was going to go on. But obviously, you could look online and find out what's over there. I find the book's quite useful because it gives you hints and tips and it's something you can carry around with you. Now, when I arrived in Mexico City, I had to change plane, so probably about 2 hour wait time, and then I was back on the plane for about another 2.5 hours, which took me to Cancun. Now, when I arrived in Cancun, I had arranged a private taxi to take me to my villa where I was staying. Now, when I arrived in my villa, lovely villa, nice and comfortable. There was swimming pools, beautiful sort of setting, and very secure as well. Now, I went for a villa, but obviously you could go for the all-inclusive hotels, which tends to be the way most people go. You've got all your food, all your drinks included and entertainment. But, I prefer to have my own little space and, I'm glad I did. But you go and do whatever you want. Now, I chose to go on a few excursions. The ones I went to is Chichen Itza, which is one of the main ones that everyone goes to. And also, I went to the natural park. Now, that's called Echeret. And also I went to the Isle of Mujeres, which is the Spanish translation for the island of the women. Now, those were brilliant excursions and I would definitely recommend going on all of those. Now, for getting around Mexico, I decided to hire a car, not that car. In the end, I went for a fairly basic VW, but it was reliable and it was fairly cheap. I think in the end it cost me about £35 a day, and that included full liability insurance, so I was covered in case there was any accidents or damage to the car. Now obviously if you're going to go on these excursions, you can book it through your hotel, or there's different places you can book it, and quite often they'll pick you up, drop you back at your hotel, and they include the food quite often and your ticket as well. So it's a nice easy way of doing it, especially if you've got the family or just want to keep your life nice and simple. Now, as I'd ordered a car, the first place I thought I'd go to is Chichen Itza. Now I set off really early in the morning because I wanted to be one of the first there, and you drive down this motorway and it just seems to go on forever. It took about 2.5 hours to get there, and finally when I arrived I realised I was one of the first there, which I think is always a good thing because if you arrive somewhere like that, it's going to get really chock-a-block with people, especially when the sort of coach loads of people turn up, and it's just quite nice to wander around. It's nice and quiet, to be one of the first there. Now, to give you a little bit of an insight in Chichen Itza, it's located on the Yucatan Peninsula. Chichen Itza was one of the large cities built by the Maya people, and it thrived from about 600 AD until 1221, when the power in the region shifted to the Mayapan. Now, there's lots of different buildings, historic buildings in the Chichen Itza site, and let's just go through a few of those. Right, this is one of the main things in Chichen Itza is the castle. And here we have the Temple of the Warriors. This is where they would play the ball game. Now you notice there's 2 rings, one either side. They have to get the ball through there, and that's how they would score a point. So let's just spin round, have a look.
of people now, it's getting quite busy.
So moving away from the Great Ball Court, there are many other historic buildings to see at Chichen Itza. You've got the observatory, the church, the Temple of the Jaguar, and you know, a lot of them haven't survived as well as others, but there's plenty to see there. Wander around, it's a lovely day out, and as always, there's always street traders selling little tourist knickknacks. So if you're into those, obviously wander down there. So overall, I would say it's a great day out and definitely somewhere I'd recommend you go. Now moving on from Chichen Itza and heading down that long road back to Cancun, I'm going to show you the second excursion I went on to. Now that was Mexico's majestic paradise, Xcaret. Now Xcaret is a whole day's experience, so again I'd recommend you get there nice and early so that you get the best out of it, and try and plan that you can stay to the very end, because one of the things that are included in your ticket is there's a big show at the end. Now the show is absolutely amazing, so you definitely want to stay for that, and you know, the whole day has got so many things to see. So here are some of the things that I saw over the course of my day.
Deja venir el potro que la gana. Ya se va el ausente, ya se va llorando, porque su chiquita lo está buena y con sus sobrinas, con sus trompetas y la vihuela, para que se alegre y se contente mi linda nena.
So that was my day in Xcaret, fun packed with plenty to see. Now, the third excursion I went on was to the Isle of Mujeres. Now, for getting to the island, you can, either travel by catamaran, so you'd need to organise that as part of your excursion, or in my case, I went by ferry. Now, the ferry was reasonably priced and only takes about 20 minutes. Now, whilst on board, I managed to get to the top deck, which gives you some great views, and to my surprise, there was a musician on board who played a selection of songs whilst we cruised to the island. Now, soon after arriving, we disembarked and I decided to hire one of the golf carts, which is a very typical way of getting around the island. They are quite reasonably priced to hire. I think I paid about £30, and that's, including your fuel, and that's for the full day. Now, the Isle of Mujeres is not a particularly big island. It's only about 7 kilometres long and just over half a kilometre wide. So when travelling around, you don't need to rush. Now, whilst we're travelling around the island, there are places you can stop to take in the views, or if you prefer, you can soak up the sun on the many beaches. Now, whilst cruising around, we stopped at a couple of places. Now, one of them was the turtle farm, where they rehabilitate and breed the turtles. Now, it's very cheap to enter there, and it's a really good one for the kids, so pop in there if you can. Now, as I was leaving the turtle farm, I noticed that there was someone selling some fresh, cold coconut drinks. So I decided to buy one of those, and here's the man in action.
Que bien. That's that. So I've got my coconut. Let's have a taste of that. Muy fresca, really fresh, lovely, cold.
Now, moving on with my coconut, I headed to the furthest point of the island, which I believe is Punta Sur. So that's a south point, if you like, where there's a lighthouse and there's some other things to see, so it's a good one to wander around. And in fact, I probably stayed there for an hour or so because I treated myself to a fabulous lunch. Now, the restaurant, it's got a wonderful view, so do check that one out. Now, travelling around the island, you'll have some lovely views along the way, and again, sort of traders selling those wonderful coconuts, and there's some beautiful houses, and there's also a number of hotels dotted around the island, so you could, if you wanted, extend your stay for more than just the one day and book yourself into a hotel. Might need a little bit of planning because I'm sure they get really busy. Now, I travelled around the island and ended up back at the main port, where I stopped off at one of the beautiful beaches. Now, the sand, the water, the setting was spectacular. I ended up staying there for a couple of hours or so to soak up the sun and the atmosphere. So pop into one of the beaches because they're absolutely wonderful. Now, on the way back toward the ferry, I handed back the golf cart. And, before doing so, I thought I'd drive around the town and, take some shots. You can get an idea of what's there. But there's plenty of bars and restaurants on offer. And, it's got quite a good atmosphere. Now, the ferries on the way back, they're quite regular. You get one about every 30 minutes, so you're not waiting around too long. Now, on boarding the ferry, it was very entertaining again because you had another musician who, played some live music, and he did seem to get the crowd going. So here's a few of those moments.
tu sombrero y póntelo. Vamos a la playa, caliente el sol. Chibiribirim, chibiribirim, chibiribirim.
Now at the end of my mini cruise, again, you know, got myself off the ferry and headed back into the main part of Cancun where I was staying. So went back to the villa and I thought, time to go to one of those restaurants that's been recommended. So just going to show you one of the restaurants that I really enjoyed. Now it's a restaurant located along the main Cancun strip and it's right next to the lagoon. So it's a great one to go if there's a sunset and you time it right, because you'd have a beautiful view as you're eating. Now the thing I liked about going into this restaurant, first thing is you can see the chefs in action, so preparing and cooking the food. Now I ordered a selection of dishes and the ones I ordered was ensalada de pulpo, which is an octopus salad, tacos de ribeye, so it's tacos with ribeye steak and it came with Mexican sauce, also guacamole, and I also got lasagna de berenjena. Now that's an eggplant or aubergine lasagna. Plus it all turned up with 3 Mexican salsa sauces and a selection of breads. So you can imagine there was far too much food, but I must say it was really tasty and the service was impeccable. Now the next day I went to a different restaurant. In fact, it was almost next door to the one I went the night before. Now again, it's on the edge of the lagoon, so you know, good for sunsets and all that. Now when I was in there, I ordered a few dishes, again far too much food. What I went for was mole almendrado, which is chicken in a traditional sauce used in Mexico. And it's made from fruit, chili pepper, nut, spices such as black pepper, cinnamon, cumin and chocolate. And it tastes a lot better than it looks. Now also I got some pulpo a las brasas, grilled octopus, which I really love, ribeye steak, because you know that's always good there, and some tacos. Now that was a nice restaurant in itself, had a little bit of music, it was, you know, good for a drink as well, so you can always pop in there if you're along that area. Now another restaurant I popped into that someone recommended was a themed restaurant. Now it's called the Jug The Lemon and it's next to the aquarium. And really it's, you know, a themed restaurant because it's got things like dolphins swimming around and you've got a giant fish tank with fish, and it's just a little bit different and probably really fun for the kids. Now the food didn't really have the wow factor, but it is free to enter and you can pop in if you want just for a drink, you know, and if you go there at the right time, then what you'll find is you can actually see the dolphins being fed. Now when I was there, I had a burrito, tacos and oysters, but here's their menu so you can see some of the sort of stuff they've got on offer. But as I say, it's a little bit different and, you know, it's worth popping in if you're that way. It's more in the main strip of Cancun. There's like a big Ferris wheel, so that'll give you an indication of where it is. Now Cancun does have an awful lot more to experience than what I've shown in this video, but obviously I was only there for a week. Now as far as getting around, I used a lot of the time the local buses which run regular as clockwork along the strip. In fact, there's probably about a bus every 30 seconds and they cost very, very little and they run, you know, right along the strip. And to be honest with you, they're actually a lot of fun and the drivers are really very nice. So for getting around the strip, grab yourself a bus and enjoy your journey like I did. Now it is nearing the end of my week, and before I do go, you know, one of the things I wanted to do was to take a photo of the iconic Cancun sign. So that's where we're going to go next. However, leave yourself plenty of time and you'll find out why.
Right, everyone's queuing up here to take a picture of the Cancun sign. I decided to jump the queue, so I'm just going to take a picture myself.
So now I've taken my photo of the Cancun sign. That was an experience. Now what I would say is if you want to miss the queues, probably best to get there really early, but otherwise leave yourself plenty of time. Now it's time for me to get back to the airport. I'm going to grab myself a bite to eat and then I'm going to jump back on the planes and head back to Heathrow, which is going to be my final destination. I hope you enjoyed my visit to Mexico, Cancun, and I look forward to sharing my experiences of other destinations that I'm going to go. Thanks for watching my videos as always, and I'll be putting out some cooking videos quite soon, so thanks again, the original Naked Chef.